On this edition of Fulton Law and Justice, law enforcement officers are forming partnerships and working together to get guns off the street. And we'll hear how juvenile court is using mediation to try to resolve matters involving our young people. Details ahead in the Our Children, Our Future segment. I'm Jolene Butts Freeman. Fulton Law and Justice begins now. Welcome to Fulton Law and Justice, your inside look at the work of Fulton's justice partners. Today we begin with how juvenile court is holding juveniles accountable for their actions in a manner that keeps them out of detention. It's a part of the court's mediation program, and it's the focus of our Children, Our Future segment with Thomas O'Connor.
Did you know that oftentimes juvenile cases are resolved outside the courtroom? In fact, at Fulton County Juvenile Court, many cases are settled by having both parties meet to speak openly and honestly, and together arrive at an agreeable solution. It's called the mediation program, and it's an essential part of the court's mission to safeguard the community and hold offenders accountable without drawing them deeper into the juvenile justice system. Joining us today to talk about the mediation program is Ms. Cynthia Tyner, Juvenile Court's Mediation Program Coordinator. Ms. Tyner, thank you for having us.
Thank you for having me.
So to begin, what is mediation? Could you kind of take me through the process?
Yes. Mediation is simply an informal process whereby the parties involved would work with a registered mediator to hopefully come to a resolution or work out an agreement.
And, what are some of the advantages of mediation compared to just going through the regular court process?
Well, going through the regular court process, the child or juvenile is subject to having a judge sentence detention or community service, or put that child or juvenile on supervision in which they may have to report to a probation officer from 12 to 24 months. Whereas in mediation, they would have the ability, the victim would have the ability to face the offender and to be able to work with the mediator and work out a solution.
It seems like a much more personal system, and it's quicker and also kind of keeps kids out of the regular court. And the end goal of mediation is to reach an agreement. And
Yes.
So can you tell me what happens if both parties get to that point? They're ready to...
Yes. Once they arrive to an agreement, the mediator will type that agreement up. I would take that agreement, I would prepare an order for a judge to sign off on it, and thereby incorporating the terms of the agreement. Now, in some cases, it can be as simple as typing a 500-word essay. It could be doing community service. It could be joining a mentoring program. And in those cases, they will remain open for 90 days. And once they are in compliance with the agreement, then the matter can be closed.
And the unique thing about those agreements is that they're made by the two parties together, the juvenile and the victim, correct?
Correct.
And so they both really get to have a say in what's appropriate, what feels good to both of them, and then the court enforces it. So it's really unique.
It is very unique.
And so, mediation, you have the mediator. What kind of special training do they go through? Obviously, it's not just, an average person who
No.
off the street or anything like that.
No, our mediators, they all have to be registered with the Georgia Office of Dispute Resolution. And since we are a juvenile court, they have to specialize and be certified to handle juvenile, both delinquency and dependency matters.
And you've been through the training. It's about a week long, and then there are additional trainings.
Yes, it is. We've partnered with the Justice Center of Atlanta.
Oh, they're a wonderful organization.
Yes, they are.
And so just out of curiosity, about how many cases have you mediated?
A little over 120 since
Wow.
November of 2016.
And what's your takeaway, with the process, having done so many?
The takeaway is the fact that we're able to bring parties together to find a common resolution, and that they are learning how to resolve conflict.
Yeah, it's about accountability too,
It is-
definitely.
Yes.
And say someone is considering mediation, what should they know going into that process? What should they expect?
Okay, well, if they want to mediate, I tell them first it's a voluntary program. They do not have to mediate. If they do mediate, they don't have to waive their rights. In case it does not work out or they come to an agreement, their case can still go before a judge. However, we do have cases that are not appropriate for mediation, such as drug-related or domestic violence or
And that makes sense because, there are just certain offenses that
Right.
need to go through the regular court process, but not all of them, and that's why we have the mediation program, so we can,
That is correct.
with those smaller ones, kind of handle them a little better than the traditional process might be able to,
Right.
more appropriately.
Right, and with that, we do have experienced mediators, so they'll be able to sit down at the table and again talk through about what has happened, what they want. They have that capability, or they have the tools to be able to resolve those conflicts.
So as we're wrapping up, is there anything we didn't get to that you'd like to address?
I'd like to add that our program is free. Other juvenile courts in other counties, they do charge $75, but in Fulton County Juvenile Court, our mediation program is free.
That's wonderful, and as people should know, the program is also very successful.
Yes, it is.
So, Ms. Tyner, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor.
Looking for more information to learn about the mediation program? Here it is. For Our Children, Our Future, I'm Thomas O'Connor.
Thanks, Tom. Up next, find out about how Fulton Sheriff's Office is helping to get guns off the street. Fulton Law and Justice will be right back. Welcome back. Hundreds of guns are now off the streets of Atlanta and Fulton County thanks to the Sheriff's Office and a community-based group calling themselves SAVE, or Stopping Atlanta Violence Effectively. The group, which includes the Fulton County Sheriff's Office, the Atlanta Police Department, and Metro Atlanta churches, invited the public to turn in their guns. Captain Dan Cochran is with the Sheriff's Office. Sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jolene.
Captain, can you tell us why the Sheriff's Office wanted to partner with this particular initiative?
The idea of the gun buyback originated in 2014 when Reverend Dr. White of Mount Ephraim and the sheriff, our sheriff, Ted Jackson, had the idea of, came up with an idea, what can we do to help stop violence and get weapons off the street? And at that time the idea was born, and we decided to have our first gun buyback, and that was in 2014.
Now, Captain Cochran, I understand you all had quite a show of force that day. How exactly did the gun buyback program work, and exactly what happened when people got to the center?
The buyback was a collaborative effort with our chaplaincy program, Dr. White from Mount Ephraim, and the Sheriff's Office and Atlanta Police Department. We conducted the program this year at the Civic Center. In 2014, we held it at one of the Braves lots, and we found this year that the Civic Center was a better option for us. We're able to get people in, one off of Ralph McGill and exit them on Pine Street. So we had a constant procession moving in the parking lot. We checked their weapons, ensured that they were safe once they entered, and then they moved to a transaction location where they're given the money for their weapon. We also had a walk-up location for those on foot right at the edge of the parking lot, so people that walked up with weapons, we could handle them safely as well.
Okay, and were you all asking for much information for those who were turning in their weapons?
We didn't ask them a single question. We didn't ask for their name, where the weapon came from, or anything about them. It was truly a day of amnesty. And the idea was that we didn't want to scare anyone away or make them think that we were looking for clues or evidence or trying to use their weapons to determine if it was used in a crime. The idea was just to get the weapons off the street, because weapons, we felt that if the weapons remain in people's homes that didn't want them or didn't know how to use them, that homes get burglarized, weapons get stolen, and then those weapons end up on the streets and can potentially be used in crimes.
Captain Cochran, for those who wanted to explain, did you get any reasons for any of those people as to why they were turning in their guns?
Yes, we did. We had dialogue with a lot of the participants, and several of them said that they had inherited the weapons from family members, and others said that they had children in the home and they just wanted a safe way to dispose of them so that anyone curious or wanted to use them or experiment those weapons wouldn't be available for anyone to use.
Okay, and how exactly did you determine how much the guns were worth?
Our original announcement was that we would only take working weapons, weapons that were fully functional and good condition. So rifles and long guns were $100 and pistols, handguns were $50.
I remember when FGTV covered the press conference about this project prior to the event, that there was a mother who had been personally impacted by gun violence. Let's listen to her.
Well, the first time they had the gun buyback program was in 2014, and I didn't participate in that one. At that time, my daughter hadn't met her demise. But in 2015, Dr. White had reached out to me and asked me would I be interested in being a part of the organization SAVE. And ultimately, we're only trying to remove guns that are committed in crimes. And we don't want to take guns away from licensed owners because there's several licensed owners out there. But we do want to remove guns that might have been involved in a crime, even nothing more than a carjacking. They're not going to ask any questions. I don't see how it could be that bad to participate when you get amnesty for participating in this event. As we stand here and speak right now, there's another death taking place, and I want people to understand that it is life-changing. My son was there to witness what happened to my daughter. He was only 13 years of age. He's still in therapy. I'm still in therapy, as well as my husband is still in therapy. And that doesn't stop. That's what happens once a murder so tragic takes place.
So she is someone who knows firsthand about the importance of getting these guns off the streets. Captain Cochran, so we mentioned hundreds participated. How many exactly?
We didn't count the number of participants that came through the gun buyback. We did count the weapons though, and some of the participants brought more than one weapon, but we collected 348 cumulatively that day between rifles, shotguns, and handguns. Okay,
and this next question, can you tell us exactly where did the money come from to buy back the guns?
The money came from fundraising, and a large portion of which came from Mount Ephraim, from the efforts of Dr. White, raising money through his church and the other churches in the community, along with the help of our chaplains in the Sheriff's Office chaplaincy program.
Okay, and finally, what will happen to the guns, Captain Cochran?
The guns are going to be destroyed in a unique way. We are going to render them completely inoperable. And the idea that we've come up with is to make art out of those weapons. In 2014, we destroyed the guns completely. We had them melted at a steel plant. This year, this time, we've decided to do something more productive with the weapons and actually make art of them. So the weapons are going to be covered in molten steel and made art from. And hopefully that's going to happen on August 11th. We've talked with some metallurgists and a company that's going to help us do that. And if we're able to sell the art, the proceeds from that will go back to victims of gun violence and hopefully battered women's shelters.
All right, Captain Dan Cochran, it's always good to see you, sir. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Jolene. It's been my pleasure.
Fulton County has committed itself to serving its residents in 6 priority areas. The strategic goal for Fulton's Justice Partners is making sure that all people are safe. On Fulton Law and Justice, we show you how Fulton's law enforcement and justice partners are doing that every day in how they serve and in the programs they provide to enhance the lives of all people, young and old. Well, we hope you've enjoyed this edition of Fulton Law and Justice. I'm Jolene Butts Freeman. We'll see you next time.